Hi,
Hi.
everybody. We hope you had a great 4th of July. This video covers content consumed from July 8th to August 14th. And before we get started with the reviews, we just wanted to talk about our um, busy month of July with traveling to family events. My cousin Cameron got married on July 18th, so we went down to Rhode Island for the wedding. And then on the way home, we went to Mystic, Connecticut to go to the Maritime Museum and the aquarium and also eat at Mystic Pizza in honor of seeing the movie Mystic Pizza.
And in between, we've had a couple of busy weekends where we were still visiting family and friends, such as a hall vacation for Janine. And then we also had this past week more family relatives visit in. But the day we visited them, actually, we had a blackout because there was a big kind of a storm that passed us that was isolated and brought hail to the Portland area.
To begin our reviews, we're going to talk about the plays we saw in July and one play that we saw last weekend at Prescott Park with our friend Patty. The first play that we saw was on July 11th, my mother's play, Princess Kingdom Musical, was up at Interlake Summer Theater in Meredith, New Hampshire. We don't have that playbill in front of us, unfortunately. It's in the car, so we can't give specific names of actors, but the whole cast was really talented. They did a great job.
Yes, they did. And the difference between this was a kid's version, so it only covered the based on the first book of the Princess Kim series. And there was no place where Kim would have a scene where she would remember her heavenly mom.
Right. The adult show that Interlake Summer Theater was doing that day was Always Patsy Cline, which we have previously seen at Nancy's Theater a couple of years ago. This year, oh, I don't have that program in front of me either. But my favorite character in that play is Louise Seeger, and I think she's one of my dream roles now. Because she is a lot of fun and she seems very full of energy. Um, my favorite songs and Always Patsy Cline are Lovesick Blues, Back in Baby's Arms, Stupid Cupid, and Walking After Midnight. Do you
And
have
I also like the song Crazy.
the other show we saw in July was Holy Unwinding, which we saw at Hogfish Theater, which is on Thompson's Point in Portland. This was a 90-minute autobiographical musical by a woman named Haley McAvoy, who is based out of upstate New York. She was very nice. We were connected to Hogfish through Double House Arts, and all of our art class friends who went with us to the play agree that their favorite songs were um Gentle Road, um
You are in the ocean.
I Am the Ocean,
Root
and
beer Anastasia.
Root Beer Anesthesia. Yeah.
It's about this girl who is got severe, moderate case of cerebral palsy, and she talks about living through it and what she's accomplished.
Yep. And that show will be in New York City in November. So if you live in New York City or close to there, we highly recommend you check out Haley's show and check out your local listings because I don't know what theater it's going to be performed at.
And then we also watched last weekend the Roger J. Hammerstein versions of Cinderella, which was the season finale of the summer series at Prescott Park. And that was a long traveling day for both of us because generally we picked up our friend Patty, who is now living in Boscawen, New Hampshire at a nursing home. And the trip up to get there was just nearly about 3 hours. So all in all, we had a very long day into midnight past that. However, when we saw the play, it was a good connection to the cast and got a great glimpse of the carriage that was going past in the audience.
The cast in Cinderella was very talented. Notable performances were by Kennedy Chang, who played Ella, Elias Robles, who played Prince Topher, Briar Moon, who played Gabrielle, Gwendolyn Rose Diaz, who played Marie, and Justin Demers, who played Jean Michel. And some of our favorite songs include
we did like
The Prince is Giving a Ball.
10
minutes ago.
I also liked In My Own Little Corner.
In My Own Little Corner. When You Are Driving Through the Moonlight, and The Music in You.
So, like I said, this is a different version that you may think it's compared to the Disney version in both live action and animated.
So I'm gonna go over some top anticipated new releases for June and July right now. The first book I wanted to talk about is a book that I forgot in the other room, but I have reviewed it in a previous video. It's called Brighter Than Before by Courtney Walsh. It's her new release from June 9th. And I connected to the main female character, Claire, because she's a list maker. And this character is also similar to Monica and her OCD-like tendencies. And the male character is similar to Chandler because of his issues with commitment phobia. The next new release I just finished is Ashley Winstead's new thriller, Hot Girl Murder Club, which I heard about through Gabby at Gabby Reads. And I agree with her review where she said that we didn't necessarily need the point of view from the detective. That made the book drag on for too long. If we had cut out those chapters, I think we would have been okay. And I just had a hard time connecting with these characters. The same thing goes with The Intrigue by Silvio Moreno Garcia. What I like about her books is that you learn about Mexican history and culture through them, but again, like in the Hot Girl Murder Club, I had trouble with connecting to the characters. The next new release I read was the Arc, which is an advanced reader copy of Luna's Misadventures by L.L. Gay, which I got through my email through BookFunnel. And what an ARC is, it is an advanced reader copy. So I got to read this book before it was published, and it was released on July 29th. So it was released a couple weeks ago. So I love her writing style. She writes a lot of mystery books that are set in worlds with witches. So if you are looking for cozy mystery books to read in the fall season, please check out her books. They are very good. The next new release that I read for June and July was Once and Again by Rebecca Searle. She also wrote One Italian Summer and In 5 Years. And like One Italian Summer, this book really handles the theme of grief really well. The next new release that I read was the final book in the Dream Harbor series by Laurie Gilmore, which I borrowed from my neighbor, Kathleen. The writing in this series started to drag after book 3, The Christmas Tree Farm. Favorite couples are Jeannie and Luke from the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, and Daisy and Elliot in this book. My favorite child character in this book series is Olive in the Strawberry Patch Pancake House. The next new release that I read was The Half-Life by Rachel Beanland. This is a historical fiction that is set in the Italian coastal area during World War II, and I liked the setting and the information that you learned about the submarines, but this book was too long and I couldn't even get through it because it was too slow paced for me, and I had to DNF it at 45%. The final new release that I wanted to talk about is called The mashup by Laura Maria Myers. This came out at the beginning of July, and if you're like me and you grew up in the 90s and early 2000s, you probably remember playing this game with your friends. I know I did when I was growing up in Massachusetts. I would always play this game with my girlfriends, Jessica, Melissa, and Tamara, and I'm sure they remember playing this too. What MASH is a game where like you predict where you're gonna end up in the future, where you're gonna marry, where you're gonna live, how much money you're gonna make, and stuff like that. It's really fun. And this book is pretty similar to the movie 13 Going on 30, where our main character, Ruby, gets transported into a game of MASH and ends up driving a car and living in a big fancy house like she predicts while playing the game. I started this book a couple of weeks ago, and I should be able to finish it by the end of this coming week because I'm 75% done with it. And here is your book.
Yes, I want to mention about what I'm currently reading right now, The Berry Pickers by Amanda Peters. This is set in 1950s when they were remembering Norma, when she can remember the disappearance of one of her family members named, let's see, it was actually Nova Scotia. It was Ruthie when she was only 4 years old. And this author is originally from Nova Scotia, so gave me a little inspiration on this time in the summertime when it is known for Maine to go to pick berries for themselves, either to save for the winter or something else. But it is a little bit of excellent, and this is a national bestseller in the winner of the Andrew Carnegie Medal from Amanda Peters. So I would highly recommend this book for pleasure, especially when the weather gets warm this time of year. But I started this a couple weeks ago, right after I also finished the book by Daria Summer, Swatika, which talked about life during the Vietnam War in the late 1960s, because that was during when people were forced to stay in territories like Thailand. And this girl named Piper still picked that up from her family and ended up in the final chapter going to Washington, D.C. at the Memorial Wall.
I read this book earlier this spring, and I really enjoyed Daria's writing style. She is the cousin of my mother-in-law, and I enjoy learning about like her through her character Piper. I enjoy learning about what she experienced growing up during the Vietnam War. So if you're interested in that time period, you should read this book. And I also would like to recommend The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. For nonfiction books in my current reading progress, the book that I just finished a couple of days ago is called Bird by Anne Lamott. This book was actually recommended to me by my writing teacher, Catherine, and then I also heard about it on a podcast I listened to with my sister by Amy Poehler called The Good Hang, because the author of the book, Anne Lamott, was interviewed. And this book provided a lot of good tips that will help my creative process. The current nonfiction book I'm reading is for the LBGQA plus book club that I'm in at Print Bookstore. This is our book for September. It's called Forest Euphoria: The Abounding Queerness of Nature. And this book is really interesting. I'm learning really a lot about different plants out in nature. And I will talk about this book more in my August wrap-up, which will be in the video in September, which will be out on September 17th. For my Disability Pride Month TBR, the books that I have read in the past couple of weeks are More or Less Maddie and Still Alice by Lisa Genova. These two books have main characters that have Alzheimer's and bipolar disorder, and I really learned well, I knew a lot about Alzheimer's before reading Still Alice. I read it when it first came out because it first came out during the time when my grandmother had Alzheimer's. So I was able to connect to Alice's family members as they dealt with their mom losing their memory. And more or less Maddie, the main character, is a comedian who has bipolar disorder. And before reading this book and also Kennedy Ryan's new release, Score, I didn't really know much about bipolar disorder and how the people who have it like maintain their disease and what medications they take. So this was also very educational for me. The other book I read for Disability Pride Month TBR was The Good Sister by Sally Hepworth. Our main character in this book is neurodivergent and she's taken care of by her older sister. She works in a library, and I also love the romance between her and Wally, and she is forced she is asked by her sister to be a surrogate for her because she's unable to get pregnant. So I really liked that theme, and it connects to the Friends TBR because Phoebe is a surrogate for her brother and sister-in-law. And I also read Mad Mabel by Sally Hepworth, and I really like her writing style. Her books are set in Australia, and I really like learning about in The Good Sister about the Australian healthcare system and how it's different from ours. Next, we're going to talk about the TV show comparison.
We have one of them that's about the Odd Couple, and we want to compare this to 2015 with Matthew Perry and Mr. Lennon, and the 1970 version with Jack Klugman and Tony Randall.
So we started watching the Matthew Perry version after I read Friends, Lovers, and the Big Turbo Thing for the first time, and we are starting season 2 in September. For the 1970 version, we are at the beginning of season 1.
We've watched 4 episodes so far of the original 1970 version.
Matthew Perry definitely brings his own sense of humor and dry wit to the revival of the show, but Tony Randall as Oscar definitely was fabulous. I prefer Jack Klugman as Felix in the original series. Thomas Lennon gets really obnoxious after episode 7.
Right. And episode 4 of the 1970 version is one of my favorites because it talks about how the two, Oscar and his partner, first met, and that was during what we call now jury duty. But now we want to do some movie reviews.
The first movie that we watched in July was Almost Famous, which is a semi-autobiographical movie of Cameron Crowe, who traveled with a band on the road during the 1970s. And I personally did not like how controlling his mother was. And I thought she just should have let him live his life instead of trying to meddle in his life so much when he was traveling.
So the year this takes place in is approximately 1973. And I agree with Janine. I think this shows an example of when band members go on the road and they think they have another thing that they leave behind. And that's why the mother was kind of trying to wreck it and trying to get in the way.
The next movie that we watched was Anastasia, the 1997 Fox animation cartoon. That is now found on Disney Plus because in 2019 Disney bought out Fox. So we saw the play of Anastasia at Portland Play. No, at
it was a different South Portland theater.
No, Lyric Music Theater. In Portland at the beginning of April. So as we said in our review of the musical that we did earlier in the springtime, our favorite songs are A Rumor in St. Petersburg, Journey to the Past,
And Once Upon a
and
December.
Once Upon a December. The voice cast in this movie is stacked. It includes Meg Ryan, John Cusack, Angela Lansbury, Lacey Chabert, Hank Azaria, and more.
And Meg Ryan was the voice of the adult Anastasia.
The dramatic. Oh,
My favorite scenes in the movie really was breathtaking to see Rasputin trying to get in the way of Anastasia, especially when they had that final fight scene in Paris.
The next movie that we watch is Aquamarine, which stars Sarah Paxton, Emma Roberts, and Jojo Levesque, who knows my friend Rachel because they did modeling together.
And what this story is really about, some say that it's a combination of In Between Splash, the original 1984 film, and The Little Mermaid. But this was based on an actual novel. And I don't want to spoil this all for you, but some of my favorite scenes really was when Aquamarine the Mermaid kind of was brought out to sea because of a big storm. And that was just basically based on her kind of reactions and stuff like that. But she still made a good friend with the two girls, and then ended up with her 3 days on shore, seeing if Raymond, or what's his name, Raymond?
Yes.
Would fall in love with her.
Yes. And I really, besides the relationship between Raymond and Aquamarine, I also like the friendship between Aquamarine and Haley and Claire, who were played by
Emma Roberts
and Sarah Paxton
and JoJo.
The next movie that we wanted to talk about is Interstellar. This is Hollywood's thoughts in a distant future about our inhabitable planet and people
flying off to space.
Breaking off to space to find new places in the galaxy. So, another movie that's kind of dystopian is WALL-E, which is made by Pixar. So, if you like WALL-E, I think you should like this movie. Interstellar stars Jessica Chastain, Matthew McConaughey, and Anne Hathaway. And, so this movie has a great cast. 3 main people in it who I just mentioned. Great art direction and great music by Hans Zimmer. We agree with the fan theory that The Martian is a prequel to this movie because in The Martian, Matt Damon's character, Mark Wattley, grows vegetables on Mars, and this was probably a prediction for having farms on new planets in the dystopian future. We just find it coincidental that the characters in this movie have the same last name as Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory, and we don't think these characters are necessarily related.
And I thought when I saw the main character go on the spaceship, then he would just drop back from his 2 children, and the girl was very upset. And we saw that how she grew up. That was played by Jessica Chastain.
The next movie that we watched in the past couple of weeks was Scream 3. And this movie was pretty mediocre. Out of the 3 Scream movies, my favorite one was Scream 3 because it's Scream 2 because it's centered around a college theater production. And as you guys know, I'm really big into theater. The play they were doing, I think, was Romeo and Juliet. But in Scream 3, as I just said, it was pretty mediocre. It was not funny or scary. And the plots in these movies are starting to get predictable, so we agreed to stop watching the series. We originally started watching the Scream movies because Scream 7 came out in February, and our best friend Sonia said it was really good. But so far, we haven't been very impressed by this series, so that's why we're not continuing with it.
But naturally, we still have Neve Campbell and other actors like Courtney Cox returning.
Parker Posey, who looks like my friend Caroline from the New London Barn Playhouse, was pretty good as Jennifer, the actress who plays Gail in the movie within the movie Stab 3. And I recently watched a fan theory video about the Scream movies, and in this video, there was a theory that said that Gale is orchestrating the Ghostface killings in order to get book sales, and I totally agree with that theory. And that's why I don't think we can legitimately continue with watching these movies, because if we know that Gale is orchestrating these killings for her book sales, that's how we know that the killings are going to be predictable each time. And also, I read a spoiler before Scream 7 was released that Gale is the one who dies in Scream 7. So, sorry for the spoiler.
And now we're going to talk about The Thing You Do.
That Thing You Do is one of my favorite movies. It's about a fictional band that is based out of Pennsylvania. It stars Tom Everett Scott, Liv Tyler, Steve Zahn, and
Giovanni Ribisi. And the manager, played by Tom Hanks.
And I really loved watching the rise of the band, and also my favorite scene is when Faye, who is Liv Tyler's character, breaks up with her boyfriend Jimmy, who is the lead singer of the band. Jimmy is my least favorite character. Guy is my favorite character. And I also like Faye, who is Liv Tyler's character.
Now here's an Easter egg for you folks. If you can see the scene where they go on national television to sing that song, "The Thing You Do," the theater that they do it in seems like a familiar spot for the coming age of television, but it's not the Ed Sullivan Theater in New York. If you can figure that out, leave a comment in the section below.
The next movie that we saw in June and July was Toy Story 5, and obviously we think at this point the Toy Story series is just trying to feed off the toy sales, but what we liked about this movie was that it focused on Jessie, the cowgirl doll, who is voiced by Joan Cusack. And if you guys remember, in Toy Story 2, you learn a little bit about her backstory. How she was abandoned by her owner, Emily. And there's something really good that ties into that plot line, but if you haven't seen Toy Story 5 yet, I don't want to spoil it for you. But
it's really depicting on what kids do these days compared to long ago when they had real toys out. They are on their screens all the time.
We also enjoyed the character of Blaze, who ends up being a friend to Bonnie. Mm-hmm. And as Matt was just saying, this focuses on technology and how kids are on their screens all the time. And there's also a little plot point about Bonnie being bullied by people who we think are her friends, but they turn out not to be very nice.
Okay, continuing on here.
Yesterday we watched Mamma Mia with Kathleen and Paul, who are our neighbors, and Mamma Mia is one of my top favorite musicals. Our favorite songs from Mamma Mia are Dancing Queen, Lay All Your Love on Me, Mamma Mia, and Slipping Through My Fingers. In the musical, the scene where Sophie has the nightmare is a great representation of anxiety.
And that's where the song where they have Under Attack is, and that's not in the original Mamma Mia movie.
This movie blended music of ABBA and using lyrics in the songs with the plot of the story of Sophie's wedding on an island off of Greece. And we collectively gave this movie a 9 out of 10 star rating because we were 8 and their ratings were 10, and when we added and averaged it, we got 9 out of 10 stars.
I know they liked it. It was one of their best, but G and I agree that there were a few things that were a little bit off topic from making it perfect.
The next wedding-themed movie that we watched recently was The Wedding Singer with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. This is one of my favorite top Adam Sandler movies of all time, along with Just Go With It and the murder mystery movies. I would just like to say that the two actresses I think Adam Sandler has the best chemistry with are Drew Barrymore and Jennifer Aniston. Aside from this movie, Adam Sandler is also in 50 First Dates with Drew Barrymore, and also with Jennifer Aniston, he is in Just Go With It and the murder mystery movies.
Now, the plot line of this movie, the year is 1985. And Adam Sandler has the hairdo that is right around the time of Gentlemen around the age of singing. And there are lots of good tunes from the mid-1980s here.
Yes, I love the soundtrack to The Wedding Singer. It has a lot of good songs in it. Aside from Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore, my favorite character is Rosie, who is the old lady who he gives singing lessons to for her anniversary party. And for Friends actors in this movie, we have Linda. Linda is Robbie's ex-wife who leaves her at the altar. I can't remember the actress's name, but she's the one who works at the she plays Chloe, the girl who works at the coffee shop who Ross cheats on Rachel with. And then we have Christina Pickles, who plays Judy Geller. She plays Drew Barrymore, her character Julia. She plays her mom, and I really think that they have a good mother-daughter dynamic in this movie as opposed to Monica, and we are going to talk about the Geller family fan theories in a couple of minutes, because I have that information right here, not that. So we gave The Wedding Singer 8 out of 10 stars, I believe, right?
I think so. But we also have some TV show episode reviews to talk about.
The first episode we watched for Disability Pride Month was Season 2, Episode 10 of Raven's Home, which is the sequel of That's So Raven. And it's called Head Over Wheels. We love this plotline regarding activism for making the elevator in the apartment building wheelchair accessible. And we did not like how Levi, who is one of the sons of Raven...
No, actually, she is played by Jason, and she is Chelsea's son.
Oh, she's Chelsea's son. Okay, so he's Chelsea's son, and he fakes an injury to get the attention of the girl named Isabella who
was in the wheelchair.
Who's in a wheelchair, yeah.
Yeah, this one is about how we should understand why some of us do end up in wheelchairs and why it's accessible.
The next TV episode that we watched was Season 4, Episode 11 of Scrubs, My Unicorn. This episode stars Matthew Perry and his dad, John Bennett Perry. If you guys aren't familiar with Scrubs, it's a show that's set in a hospital, and in this episode of Scrubs, Matthew Perry's dad plays a musician who is a patient in a hospital needing a kidney transplant, and Matthew Perry plays his son Murray, who is supposed to give him the kidney. And if you guys have not read Matthew Perry's book, he mentions in the beginning how his dad was a musician in the 1960s in this band called the Serendipity Singers, and all the women went crazy over him, and that's how he met his mother. I think when he wrote this, Matthew Perry also directed this episode of Scrubs that we watched, and I think when he wrote this episode, he really kind of used his dad's popularity as a singer to work it into the character that the dad in the hospital plays, because we see in the episode how he attracts the attention of the nurses because he's a musician and they swoon over him. So I think that's the definite connection that he made when he was writing a script for this episode. And this episode aired originally in November 2004, which was the fall after Friends ended. So, yeah, we loved this episode of Scrubs, and we think that Matthew Perry and his dad did really great in their roles.
Right. Now, we're going to get to some fan theory Friday notes after I have a couple extra ones for our script. But the reason why I wanted to do these is because I was thinking about how sometimes when we have friends or foes or frenemies, what they call it, sometimes we see in media how sometimes when they get a story to tell, how it really evolves, and sometimes that makes a good connection after all. But this week I saw in Disney Channel actors and actresses why sometimes they didn't get along. And I have a couple of examples of them right here. One of them is Lizzie McGuire episode, season 2, episode 19, called She Said, He Said, She Said. And this is what during the time when there's a food fight in the cafeteria, and it ends up with 3 kids in detention: Lizzie herself, Judgment, and Kate. They have to share stories of how this fight broke out, and sometimes it went a little bit offbeat, but visually it didn't really matter who started, even if it was an accident. They still make up, and Kate is surprisingly listening to Lizzie, which is unlike her because she is the antagonist of the series. And while they do that, Matt McGuire and his best friend Ethan miss the school bus and they seek out to play hooky. But this is not a real life argument because of Ashley Brielle, who did get along well with Hilary Duff, but Hilary herself ended up with having a mismatch with Lelaine, who played Miranda during the show. And that's why Miranda did not be in the Lizzie McGuire movie.
I think she was also not available for the movie because she was either busy with her music career or filming another
It could
movie.
be.
So she couldn't be part of the movie.
And the other one here.
And when I originally saw that episode of Lizzie McGuire, I couldn't connect to it because, I mean, I was never involved in any food fights, so I never got in trouble for that.
Yeah, that is scary and just immature.
It's immature. I wouldn't really say it's scary.
But the other episode I found was Even Stevens, season 1, episode 21. Lewis and Ren are stuck on a Ferris wheel. And then some mechanic comes over, and then they share their stories about their first week in school.
Mm-hmm.
Ren wanted to be student government president,
mm-hmm.
and obviously she was a straight A student. And the later episode was when she got a C on a woodworking project because of a pizza stand, and that upset her. But the sibling rivalry turned into kind of a funny yet thriving episode. But in general life, the actors Shia LaBeouf, Christy Carlson Romano, they did not get along, and they don't talk to each other anymore.
I think Christy Carlson Romano made a video about that on her YouTube channel.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, so if we can find that video, we will link it in the description so that you guys can watch it. And I mean, Christy Carlson Romano has a really great YouTube channel because she does a lot of great throwbacks in it to Even Stevens and Kim Possible.
And I also find a few of them with Celebrity Chef where she does impressions. Now I think she and her family moved to a farmhouse in Vermont.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Now go ahead with your fan theory.
Okay, so instead of making separate videos for fan theory of the week and character analysis on my channel, I just figured to put them in this video instead, and we should talk about the fan theories together, actually.
Okay, so, I thought you were going to do it yourself.
So for my character analysis this month, I decided to talk about Monica, and I've talked about her in my previous videos before about how I really personally connect to her, and I'm just going to review those again, and then we're going to discuss the fan theories. So, Monica Geller is played by Courtney Cox. I did write her a fan mail letter and ask her in the fan mail letter what she thought about the fan theories we're going to discuss today. I did not get a response from her in time to film this video, but if I get it within the next week, I will be sure to make an addendum video and link it in the description of our next entertainment wrap-up video that comes out in September, or throw comments in at the end. So the ways that I connect to Monica are in the one with the Super Bowl part 2, where she has relationship anxiety about asking out Jean-Claude Van Damme. I'm more connected to this aspect of her character when I was in middle school and high school and was nervous about asking guys out. For the record, I do not think that Jean-Claude Van Damme is very attractive, and he didn't seem like he was a very nice person either, because he basically says to Monica that Rachel said to him that she wanted to have a threesome with Drew Barrymore. Personally, I like the plot line with Julia Roberts and Matthew Perry better than the Jean-Claude Van Damme plotline. The second way I connect to Monica's character is in the one with the late Thanksgiving. So in this episode, which is in season 9, after Emma is born, it starts off with Monica and Chandler asking their friends if somebody else wants to host Thanksgiving dinner, because they are always hosting it and they need a break, but they say no. And basically, the other 4 characters are late for Thanksgiving dinner at Monica and Chandler's. Ross and Joey go to a hockey game, and Phoebe decides to enter Emma in a baby beauty pageant, which I saw something on Instagram that Jennifer Aniston was not a big fan of that whole plot line with entering Emma in the beauty pageant. And I agree with her, because I think I don't like the idea of beauty pageants. I think they're like too much of a popularity contest. And the reason why I connect to Monica in this episode is because as we were getting ready to move away from New Hampshire, I was starting to get burnt out from hosting activities at our apartment for our friend group, because I felt we were hosting too many of them and I was getting burnt out. As I said, that's why I could connect to Monica. And then being the mama of our friend group, Monica and Chandler are the anchoring couple in the friend group who everybody else in the friend group goes to with their problems. And I'm happy to be that with our friends, but I can't always give them advice on whatever situations they're in. Sometimes it's really hard for me to help them because I don't know the best way how. So those are the 3 ways I connect to Monica. So now we're going to talk about the fan theories. There are multiple fan theories that state that Monica is the product of an affair, and that is why Judy resents her and criticizes her.
Monica spends a whole series trying to get affirmation from her mother, but even during her wedding, she feels criticized by her.
There is another theory that says Rachel and Ross are siblings, and Jack and Judy gave her up for adoption to the Greens. What do you think of that fan theory? Do you think it's true?
No, I don't think so.
Neither do I. And I could not find any references to this fan theory on Reddit. I heard about it in a YouTube video, which I will link in the description box in case you guys want to watch it. It's like a 10-minute video about Dark Friends fan theories. This theory is too dark for me, and it's also not... If it was true, then it would ruin the whole dynamic of Rachel and Ross's relationship, and they would not be able to have a romance because it would be incest. Let's see. I noticed throughout the series that Jack tries to make an effort to treat Ross and Monica equally, which leads me to think that he is complicit in Judy's abusive behavior, but truly cares for Monica deep down. To go along with the affair theory, other fans have speculated that one explanation of Jack's affection for Monica is that he was married before he met Judy and got custody of Monica when his wife died. I like this theory much better than Ross and Rachel being siblings, because it shows the reason why Jack would be closer to Monica than to Ross. The next thing I wanted to talk about with this character analysis of Monica is her relationship with Richard. when I was doing my video about student-teacher relationships and age gaps, I felt I focused too much on that, and when I was watching the video to research this video, which will also be linked in the description, it's on another character analysis channel for friends that I'm on. Basically, it states the reason why Monica ends up being drawn to Richard is because she's neglected by her parents and she gets positive affirmation and attention from Richard that she doesn't get from her parents. And yes, I still think their age gap is weird in that Monica probably should not date her dad's best friend. But now that I have this other point of view about their relationship, it's a little bit less gross, but it's still kind of gross. What do you think?
I think so.
Other fan theories about the Gellers. This fan theory talks about a theory we talked about in a previous entertainment wrap up where we talked about Monica being a test guinea pig for weight loss drugs, and we agreed that this probably could have didn't we agree that this might be true because of her rapid weight loss between the flashbacks and the pilot?
It could be.
So, I go on to say that I posit for this theory that, in the episode where she has the secret closet, her weight loss drugs that she's addicted to are hidden in there, and she has to hide those from her friends so they don't see them, but the directors didn't want to, they had to keep this G-rated for families, or PG at least. So instead of having drugs in the secret closet, they had all the household supplies that she had nowhere else to store. Characters in other TV shows I have seen, one which I haven't, but I've seen the other three. So if you have seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine, weigh in with your opinions. The other three characters that are similar to Monica are Jules Cobb from Cougar Town, which is another Courtney Cox character. So this show is technically not a Friends spinoff, but when we were watching it a couple of years ago, we did notice a lot of similarities in character personalities. Like for Jules, we noticed that she's similar to Monica in a couple of ways. Her relationship with Grayson is very similar to Monica's relationship with Chandler. The other two characters that we think are similar to Monica are Claire Dunphy from Modern Family because of how she, like, organizes all the schedules for family activities. And then Bernadette from The Big Bang Theory because, she's the mother of the friend group and she also kind of replaces Howard's mother in the dynamic when she passes away in season 8. And if you have watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine, please leave a comment below. I haven't seen this show yet, but based on Good to Evil ranking list on Wicked Binge, I can see why she would be similar to Monica because of organization is a manifestation of her anxiety and she is competitive. And then the next character analysis I wanted to talk about is for Matthew Perry's birthday, which is on Wednesday. So,
and we want to know about is Chandler a man-child?
And I'm going to answer that right now. Chandler is not a man-child, but instead he has trouble maintaining relationships with women. He's very similar to Jerry Seinfeld because he nitpicks different things about women that he doesn't like, and also he notices that Mr. Heckles has a similar personality when he's looking through his yearbook after he dies. Monica helps him to be a better partner in the one with the embryos, which later leads him to say, I'm only the best because you made me the best, in the one where Phoebe hates PBS. Chandler's effeminate behavior. So, in a couple of episodes, we see Chandler acting like kind of a woman. Chandler was originally supposed to be a gay character, but once Matthew Perry joined the cast, they had to rewrite it. But you can tell in a few different ways that he was supposed to be a gay character, and I will go through those as examples right now. He seeks out Monica and Phoebe for advice on breakups instead of Joey and Ross.
And then the 100th episode, Chandler's response to Frank Jr., who was saying Chandler's a girl, should have just said it's kindergarten flashback, and that could have been a teaser.
So what he is trying to say is that when the triplet Chandler is born, it's a girl baby. So Frank Jr. comes out into the lobby of the hospital and say Chandler's a girl, and Chandler puts his fingers to his head like this and says kindergarten flashback. And that scene was on pretty recently, and every time I see this episode was on recently, and whenever I see this scene, I think in my head that Chandler was probably teased as a kid for being sensitive, or maybe because his name is could be either a girl's name or a boy's name.
And then when we get the hypnosis tape, this is where Chandler gets back to his old habit of smoking.
So in this episode, Rachel lets Chandler borrow a hypnosis tape to help quit smoking that her coworker used, and this is obviously used to help women quit smoking. So he ends up imitating women, like when he's in Monica and Rachel's apartment the next morning after first using the hypnosis tape, you see him applying chapstick to his lips, and then he puts his hand on his chest like this and looks at Rachel and says, "That's a lovely blouse." That scene is really funny. And then later on, you see him getting out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, kind of strutting like he's walking down a fashion runway. The next thing I wanted to talk about as an example is helping Joey fix his botched eyebrow job in the one where Monica sings. So this is the episode where Monica goes to Mike's karaoke bar to sing karaoke. In Joey's plotline, he gets his eyebrows done at a salon, and the person who waxes his eyebrows does a bad job, so Chandler is fixing it. And he explains to Joey that the reason why he's so good at doing stuff like this is because his dad's co-workers at the drag show asked him to help him with their makeup and hair, and like that's another thing that makes me think that maybe Chandler could have been a gay character, because maybe his dad was trying to like prepare him to also be a drag performer. That's just a guess though, I don't really know. The next part of this analysis of Chandler I wanted to talk about is his homoerotic relationship with Joey. So you can kind of tell throughout the whole series of Friends that Joey and Chandler kind of sometimes can act like they're a couple more than best friends. And Joey assumes the male role in the relationship, and Chandler is like the sensitive one, as we have pointed out before when I mentioned the part about Frank Jr. saying Chandler's a girl and Chandler saying kindergarten flashback. So in the episode where Joey moves out of the apartment because he moves out on his own once he gets money from Days of Our Lives, that is framed as a breakup, and Chandler handles that situation the way a girl would handle a breakup. There's also a really cute scene in the episode where the one with the chicken and duck, where Joey comes home late from a party with his coworkers, and Chandler is acting like the female parent in a situation, being like, you can't be gallivanting all around the town, and I stay home all day taking care of the sick chick, like the chick is a kid. Examples of this dynamic in other shows. So 2 shows that also have similar homoerotic relationships between the male characters are Corey and Sean in Boy Meets World, and the key situation that brings this about is the one in the episode where Corey and Topanga get married, and Topanga has to go up to him during their wedding and say, Sean, it's my turn to have Corey now. You need to understand that we are in a relationship and we're getting married. And then in the Big Bang Theory, the same thing happens with Howard and Raj. Because you can kind of see before he meets Bernadette that they're kind of like a couple. And then when Howard gets together with Bernadette, did you notice this too?
I don't know if I remember that episode of Big Bang Theory.
So, like, I think the writers of the Big Bang Theory were too afraid to make Howard and Raj gay, which is interesting because by season 3 or 4 of the Big Bang Theory, gay marriage had been passed into law in 2008. So you would think that would be an okay thing for them to do, but I guess the writers of the Big Bang Theory did not want to ruffle feathers with the producers or something, which I think is weird. I think that would have been okay. Plus, I thought that would have been interesting if Howard and Raj were a couple, but I have also noticed in other analysis videos I've seen of Howard and Raj that both of these characters are similar to Chandler, and I don't know if you agree, because Howard was abandoned by his dad at the same age that
Phoebe was.
Chandler.
Or Chandler?
I'm talking about Chandler, not Phoebe. No. Phoebe lost her mom at 13. Chandler loses his dad to the pool boy in Thanksgiving 1968 when he's 10. And Howard his dad leaves him and his mom when he's 11. And then Raj is similar to Chandler because he's awkward around women.
Right.
So do you agree?
I think so. Okay, that should do it now.
Thank you for tuning in. We will be back on September 17th with our next mid-month wrap-up. Have a great rest of your summer. We will see you all in September.
And kids, make sure you're ready for school coming up.
Yep.